Hi, my name is Alana Campbell of You Have a Life Plan and Support Their Light, a service for parents with sensitive kids. I'm going to be participating in the 4th annual Autism Resource Fair. It's my third time being at We Rock the Spectrum, sharing the work that I do. And this is going to be in a few weeks from now. And I prepared some information for people to go through. And I know that it's going to be a busy, fun event, and it's too much information for anybody to absorb or look at in an event like this. So I wanted this presentation to be available for people to take a look at if they decide they actually are interested in looking at this a little bit more. And then afterwards, they can reach out if they have any questions. Also, I know some people can't attend the event, but they'd still be interested in knowing this information. So that's why I've created this video. So this is the binder here, and I'm just going to go through it with you. So that's my parent-child page on my website. So my website is yourlifeplan.ca. And then if you go to the parent-child section right here, this parent-child in the menu, you'll get to Support Their Light, a service for parents with sensitive kids. So here's a whole bunch of information about how the work I do can support families in a very unique way, different from other parenting suggestions, because it's tailored to the unique child, the unique family dynamic, the unique parent, and all that kind of stuff. I just wanted to point out that on this website, there's also 4 videos. One that's another way to understand your child's behavior, identifying red flags in kids using human design and soul contract. Has your child been labeled as a problem in the classroom? And understanding the emotional system seen through the lens of human design. So those are available on that page. And then I also have a page specific to autism. And this video will also sit on there when it's complete. And there's also an article on here, which I will show you the example of esogetic treatment for a family with a child with sensory processing ADHD and possible autism. So that article looks like this. And then this is just like the first page of the article. And then if you were to, zoom into these photos, it shows like the child's situation, history, and then also the parent's history. And the point here is that in dealing with situations like autism, it's not just the child, it's the parental epigenetics, it's the grandparental epigenetics, it's all kinds of things. It's not just one thing that causes a situation where a child struggles. And so that's what I'm trying to bring to the table, is that there's ways at looking at, okay, what is the situation? But a lot of the treatment is not on the child, it's on the parents. And then sort of understanding, okay, how do we support this child? And then, so this is kind of speaks to that as well. This is another page on my website, which is relationships, like really just understanding that relationship dynamic with your parents and with your partner so that you can be more conscious in your relationships. Relationships are very hard, but there's ways to kind of grow and accept people for where they're at. Let me just go back here, see if I missed anything. It's not, okay. So this is my Restore Chi page on my website. The reason I include it here is because I think it's really important for parents to have a way of treating their own kids. And Esogetics, which is what I will present later, the tools are expensive, but they're worth it when you figure out what works for your child, but you probably wouldn't want to buy the whole selection. So Restore Chi is a great way to start thinking in sort of that traditional Chinese medicine concepts of the organs and how they work together and how we can support our kids through all kinds of things. It's really easy to use, and it's not that expensive when you kind of, get the parts and you like really have a tool that you can use. It's what I use the most because it's the easiest. So on this Restore Chi website, you see some history, you see what equipment you'd have to purchase in order to make it work. And then I have 2 videos posted here. One is keeping your body healthy using Restore Chi, and one is an update. So this one I released in 2020, and this one I just released a month ago in 2023. And so this is the page I was expecting to be sooner, but that's okay, it's here. So I have so many books on parenting difficult children, learning disabilities, ADHD, selective mutism. I don't have a good book on sensory processing. So if anybody wants to recommend something to me, I'm really open to giving that a read. But what I think a lot fails to recognize is this is trauma. Like maybe the child didn't experience trauma themselves. Maybe the parents don't want to go there about the child having experienced trauma. But like even if, so for example, for me, if my father experienced something when he was born, that is in me. The way he parented me, it carries that energy. I even carry it genetically because of the epigenetics, which changes his genes, which changes mine to adjust to what happened to him when he was born. Like, we carry trauma, even if nothing happened to us that we're aware of, but not even that. Like, my two daughters, I was very sick in pregnancy with them. So they have attachment disorders, attachment issues, because when I was pregnant with them, I literally wanted to reject them because I was so sick. And so they feel that in their cellular memory because they didn't have a brain then to store these memories. So they stored it in all their cells. So our children have trauma. And, this book says the body bears the burden. And there's many books like this. And it's just trying to understand, okay, how do we clear the trauma rather than trying to force children who are struggling to fit the mold of society, because it's quite frankly unfair. And, maybe they don't want to fit it because the mold is wrong. Like, we're forcing children to do things, and some kids are able and some kids are not. And maybe the kids that are not are saying, it's just enough is enough. So this is a really helpful series of books, Nonviolent Communication, NVC. So basically, I think it's great because it gets us focused on, these are my needs. This is my feeling. This is my request to you to help meet my needs. And then trying to understand, okay, what is that person's need? What are they feeling? How could I try to meet their need? And trying to find ways to work with others. So I just wanted to share that this is there. It's not something I do directly. I just find it really helpful to start to think in these terms. Okay, so some of the work that I do. So I can compile charts of your whole family, which would be your human design, your gene keys, your soul contract, and your astrology. And then here is just an example where you can take, like, you can color in two people's human design side by side. You can even make a chart online, but this is just like a fun coloring thing to see like how you are different and how you do influence each other. And this is a chart where, like, if you take your whole family and you color in these middle bars, and if anything is not fully colored in, that's where your family is going to struggle, just because of the nature of how energy works. And so there's areas in our family that are not colored in, and we do struggle in those ways. And it's kind of self-forgiving to see that and be like, oh, that's just our energy. So I've spoken a lot about this in previous videos too. So these are some examples of children who have autism. And what I did was I highlighted things that they tend to have in common. So they tend to have like this 2 profile, which is the hermit, which means that they have talents, but they kind of seclude to themselves, and then people seek them when they seclude to themselves. So they're naturals at something. I also have included within these like examples some parents of children who have autism, because sometimes children get diagnosed with autism and then their parents identify as having autism as well, and maybe they do. And so, and then here, like having the cross of tension, like that means that you're here to show society where they're doing it wrong. So it's kind of interesting that that's showing up. And then, here, determination closed means they are going to refuse certain foods if it's not good for them. So these are tough kids to parent. Here it's high. So they need their determination when they're eating, I believe they need to eat in an environment that's very stimulating. So it's just, we all have these quirks, and what the benefit of looking through these lenses is to understand the specific quirks of your child, and then you can work with that instead of using strategies that are for everybody or the average person. So here's someone's astrology who either identifies with or has autism. And you can see here, this is like public life, and their purpose is in the public life. Their responsibility in the communications is in the public life. So they're here to communicate a message. That's their purpose. That's their responsibility. And then you also see in the first house, which is how they present themselves, they have Uranus, which means they're going to be out of the box different. And, here they need to play, and they really need expansive amounts of play. And they value, here's Neptune. So that's like spirituality and concepts that are just hard to grasp. Could also be music or addiction. So, all of us have these planets somewhere, and it's just the layout of where your planets are can tell you a bit about, okay, who am I dealing with here and how can I help? And then this is gene keys. So what I just highlighted here in these kids or adults is what did they need in the first 7 years of life? So this person needed pleasure. This one also needed pleasure. This one needed belonging. So we all need different things. And if we parent our kids based on what we needed, sometimes it doesn't work very well. just 1 second. So this is sole contract, and I'm not going to go through all these numbers. I do have that video about the red flags in kids, but these are some of the numbers that show up for people who identify with. So you can see here, this one is age 41. So this is an adult. Age 45, this is an adult, and this is a child. So you can see how these numbers may be challenging. So then my binder goes into detox, because I'm a multidimensional psychologist, and we have so much garbage in us from past lives, from our parents, from the things we think, from the things we eat, from the things we're exposed to. And I can't do this alone. So I have an outside referrals page, which has all kinds of practitioners on there that do stuff that's beyond what I do, because I don't think anybody has the answer for anybody. And I just want, you know, all the options to be there for whoever is going to work with me or not. You can just go to my website and see what I have there. So these are just some examples. And this is an article that I wrote. This is one of the modalities that I do work with, not myself, but I work with Rose. And this is the chapter on attention deficit and hyperactivity disorder and autism. So he talks about what could be going on in the brain and how can we detox it. And then this is actually a process out of divine healing, but chiropractors like Dr. Rachel at Aligned Chiropractic can check for these primitive reflexes. And basically, my understanding is if we felt good in childhood, infancy, we would let go of all these primitive reflexes to defend ourselves. But if for some reason, and it doesn't have to be something happened to us, could be something that happened when we were in utero, something that happened with one of our ancestors that we didn't feel safe to let go of this reflex, then there's all kinds of symptoms that can show up. And these are the examples directly from Dr. Rachel of what could happen, you know, if you have a retained, here, this is a retained fear parallel reflex, you know, here, sensory processing issues. So there is people who can recognize where did this come from, and there are ways that you can undo it, both physically, doing exercises that Dr. Rachel would recommend, or spiritually, or even mentally. When you're aware of things, things shift, because that's why kids present with problems to a certain degree, is for us to see what's going on. And then here are a couple, this is a chapter on the visual system, just in case someone is really interested in the visual system, I can share this with you, and how it's not just what we consciously see. There's so much more to it. And then this one is an article about the premovascular system, which is suggested to be the physical representation of the acupuncture meridians. And I don't get into it too much because to me, it doesn't matter. But for some people who need some kind of proof, maybe they want to look for this article and see, okay, scientists are actually starting to look at this as being real. And then this is an example of an ear, a map of an ear. And so this is like sort of the ridge inside the ear, and you can see that it represents the spine, and it also represents our stress response. And in esogetics, the spine is representative of our time in the womb. And even German New Medicine talks about how as we develop, if there's problems along the way, that problem will show up in a certain part of our body because of the developmental trajectory. And I just share this article that you can find in my blog, because this is a practitioner who will look at the ear. I mean, he doesn't look through the lens of esogetics, but I still find it helpful to get the information that he can provide as well. He really works on getting things moving through the body, getting circulation going, as it suggests. And then, you know, where are the blocks and how can we clear the blocks? So it's all of us working together to help these kids and these families. So what is esogetic medicine? Basically, it's what happens in our prenatal, even conception and preconception, which is called the Bardo phase. Whatever happens in that small 9 months will repeat itself during the birth. So during the breaking of the water, going through the canal, birthing and cutting the cord, and will repeat itself through childhood, will repeat itself through the first 25 years of life, and then through all of life. So it's like a skipping stone. Something goes wrong in that time period and then it keeps repeating. Okay. So I'm gonna have to continue this later.